thing.
Hello, and welcome to DynamicsCon. This is the Innovia Consulting Power Platform session, and today we're going to be talking about Customer Voice, which is an exciting new product from Microsoft that allows you to take surveys of anyone that you need feedback from, whether that's your customers, your employees, your shareholders, your donors, or anyone else. Customer Voice lets you get their opinions and get that information into your system so that you can do something with it. And the Power Platform is how it does it. So that's what we're going to be covering today. I'm going to be showing you some ways that you can use Power Platform to make this product even better for your company. But let's get right into it. But before we get started, I want to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Keith Sayre. I'm the Power Platform team lead at Innovia Consulting. I lead a team of consultants and developers who are focused on the Power Platform and developing solutions that our customers can use within that group of products. So with things like dashboards and Power BI for understanding the business data that comes in, to Power Automate flows that help them to take repetitive steps out of their processes, and also Power Apps, which lets them kind of rapidly iterate on creating the applications that let them get to their data and take action where and when they need it. So that's a bit about what we do at Innovia Consulting. Most of our customers are working primarily with Dynamics 365 Business Central, which is Microsoft's ERP platform. So that's primarily what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. But obviously the Power Platform can connect with everything in the Microsoft platform. So I think there's going to be something here for you, whether you use Business Central or something else in the Microsoft stack. So I hope you'll stick around to see what we're talking about. So let's get into the first part of our agenda, which is explaining what do we mean by customer voice? What is that? So customer voice is a survey platform that is built into Microsoft's Dynamics platform. It is a fairly new product, but it is rapidly iterating, becoming stronger all the time. And what it really allows you to do is get surveys with the data to do something about them. And having the Power Platform in your pocket when you're dealing with that data is just going to make your responses that much cleaner, faster, more efficient, and more powerful. So as I said, Customer Voice, it's part of the Microsoft Dynamics platform. And so it will use the data that is coming from your Dataverse instance, which is also the data behind D365 Sales and other Dynamics applications. So anything that's using that common data platform is going to be able to directly interact with the things that come in through Customer Voice, as well as provide personalization tokens for all of your surveys as they go out. So for example, you can have the name of the person who's receiving the survey within that survey, or perhaps their company name, or if you're responding based on a support ticket, you can stick the number of the support case on that survey so they know what they're responding to. So because Customer Voice is so tied to your Dataverse and your Dynamics environment, that allows you to create your surveys and distribute them and draw on all the resources that you have in Power Apps and Power Automate. So we'll go over that as we get going. So let's take a look at the entire process sort of visualized. So at the top, we start in our Dataverse or D365 sales environment, and you start with your data. That's sort of the tables, that's what you have. So that could be your accounts, your contacts, your opportunities, all that good stuff is all within your Dataverse. Then what happens is Customer Voice will take that data into itself, and Customer Voice is where you create your surveys. It's where you create the distribution for them, as well as record the results that you get back into Dataverse. So that's very important for when we get into understanding how to view the results and how things like Power Automate can act based on the results of your surveys. Next, we have Power Apps, and that's primarily what I'm talking about with there is creating a model-driven app so that you can browse your surveys and your responses. But there's obviously more you could do with that. If you were interested, you could create a Canvas app that allows access to the data. It's really sort of up to your specifications what you want to be doing with that. But sort of as a baseline, I do recommend creating a model-driven app that will connect to your survey responses just so you can see them. And you'll see when we set up a survey how we're going to be using that a little bit as well. Finally, Power Automate. Again, that's where the magic happens. That's where you can be distributing your surveys automatically based on any kind of trigger that's in the Power Automate connectors. And then on the flip side, when a survey comes back in, Power Automate allows you to create follow-up actions that are based on those results. So at this point, I'm going to be moving into a demo, and so I'll be heading into the products directly. So let's pull up customer voice. Once you get into the system, your screen will look something like this. This is our base customer voice home screen, and it allows you to see what's going on. You can see all of your surveys that you have, reports based on them, as well as a few videos to understand customer voice. Like if there's a topic that you're unfamiliar with, there's some quick videos that you can review there as well. So let's just create a new project just so I can show you how this works. So when you create a new project, you have several different sort of templates that are based on different business scenarios. You can choose one of those, obviously, or you can create your own blank from scratch. So let's take a look and maybe do the periodic customer feedback template. So let's go into that and show you what's going on. So now it's going to ask for you to connect to an environment. So this would be your Dataverse environment. So you can, if you have multiple in your tenant, you could select the one that you would like to use. So now what it's going to do is actually generate a survey based on that template. And a lot of the work is sort of handled for you. So as you can see, we've got periodic customer feedback. How would you rate your overall satisfaction with your company? Makes sense to include that in such a survey. And then we can say, based on your experience in the last 3 months, please rate how much you agree with the following statements. And then it has a whole bunch of them in there. You can see there's little tokens that say company name within these questions. And I'll show you a little bit about how that works in just a moment. And then our final question is, what additional feedback would you like to share with us? And so that's just a long text field. So they can just type anything they want. They can put names, they can put experiences, whatever they want to do. So over here in the customization tab, this is where you can start using some of the very cool features that are part of customer voice. Firstly, you've got your satisfaction metrics. So these are metrics that are they're actually based in the project level. So you can see we've got this project that's called Periodic Customer Survey, and then a survey called Periodic Customer. The project is called Periodic Customer Feedback, and the survey is called Periodic Customer Survey. However, these satisfaction metrics can actually go across surveys. So say we created a new survey that's part of the same project, we could use these same metrics in those surveys. But what actually are they? So a satisfaction metric is sort of, there's a few different types of them. And what they do is they measure satisfaction of your customer or whoever your survey based on different types of survey metrics. So there's things like the Net Promoter Score. There's the sentiment. So the sentiment is really cool. So you can see with the sentiment, it's actually using question 3, which is this text box. So the sentiment satisfaction metric is it's going to actually analyze the text and give you positive, neutral, and negative sentiment analysis based on what the respondent has typed in. So if they say things like, "Oh, it was great," that would have a positive sentiment analysis. If they said, "Oh, I was really angry," that could give a negative sentiment analysis. So it will do that kind of thing and give you the results of that. So that I think that's pretty cool. Um, and then CSAT is just the customer satisfaction. It's just sort of on a scale. So let's add a question. I can show you that NPS because I think that's one that you may be using quite a bit in your surveys. There's actually a question type. So if you've ever worked with Microsoft Forms or something like that, this should be fairly familiar. You can add a new question. We have all these options that are different types. Then there's one that's called the Net Promoter Score. So by default, it's going to give you what is pretty much what the Net Promoter Score is intended to measure. It's how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague. You can, of course, change the wording however you like um, based on your individual circumstance. So perhaps if you're wanting to gather that question based on a case, you might say based on your recent experience, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? Uh, in this case, it looks like a lot of these questions are based on a 3-month period, so we could do that as well. We could say based on the last 3 months, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? But the point is the 0 to 10 scale, and this is a metric that's used quite a bit across the industry to measure how much customers really like your business or donors or anyone. And so what you do with that is once you have your question in place, we can create a metric for Net Promoter Score. Then it's actually going to limit the possible questions I can select to the ones that are Net Promoter questions. So now I can save that, and now I've got that metric as part of my surveys. Let's hop over to one that I've built in the past, and from there we'll be able to see some more information. So you can see I've customized this a bit. I've added some of those branding to make this based make this look well. So I wanted to come over this one to show you a couple things, and then we're actually going to fill the thing out in the demonstration. So first of all, I've got a question in here that is called, would you be willing to participate in a customer case study? So we can see that that is not visible at the moment. However, if we were to, so what we've done is set up a branching logic. So in this customization pane, you can select branching, and you can set up different rules. So in this case, this rule is going to say, if question based on this order, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague is greater than 8, then it's going to show that question. So in this case, we're relying on that NPS question. If it is 9 or 10, it's going to show them this question, which is going to say, would you like to participate in a customer case study? As you can see later, we can do automated results based on the responses. So very well, we could set up a Power Automate flow to notify someone in the marketing department when that option is checked in a survey. So I'm going to pop over to this one, which is, it's similar, but this is the one that I wanted to set up because I wanted to come over to Power Automate and show you what's going on there. So this is our Power Automate flow for an automated survey distribution. So what we've got going is that in our environment, we actually set it up to be based on Business Central in this case. So in this environment, when a record is created, we've got it set up for customers. So when a customer record is created in Business Central, it's going to trigger this flow. What it's going to do is get all the information based on that customer and make it so that it's accessible in Power Automate Flow. So all the factors that are related to that record, the name, the contact information, all that good stuff is going to be pulled into our record here, our flow here. Then there's going to be a delay. So the idea here is this survey is intended to be a survey for new customers after a period of time to see what they're thinking from an initial period. So I put a delay in here just to show you. So in practice, I would probably put this more like 6 months or something like that, or perhaps 90 days. But in this case, I'm just doing 7 seconds just because for demo purposes, we don't want to be sitting around and waiting for 3 months. But the idea is that we would wait 3 months to send the survey to gather customer feedback based on their initial experience. And so it's going to actually send them this survey. Okay, so here I am in Business Central, and I'm actually going to create a new customer in this environment. So we're just going to go with the domestic customer template for now. And we're really just doing something very simple. I'm going to put an email address in here because that will be required for this flow to trigger. And then I'm going to say this is going to be called a test company. So what we're going to be doing is saving that company, and then that should be triggering our flow to start running. As you can see, the flow is running at the moment. So it gathered that a new customer was created in Business Central, and now it took all that information and used that to build out some responses that will be based on that, including sending the survey to the customer. So now, the email account that's connected to this environment, I will be receiving a response from the customer voice. As you can see, here's my survey invitation, and it came right to my email. So this was based on the fact that I just created that record in Business Central, and it sent me a survey. So you can imagine that when your customer is created, we can set that up. So we can go ahead and put some responses in here. We can see, I enjoy working with you. And then we can say, yes, we did. No, we can say, no, we did not schedule that. So there we go. And that's our message. Obviously, we can pull in these tokens based on the record and put it into the survey. So let me show you a little bit more specifically about how that works. And that is in this Power Automate option to send a survey, we're actually passing some information from Business Central to the variables that are within our survey. So in this case, the display name from Business Central is going to the variable company name that's within our customer voice. And so in your flow, for whenever you're using one of these create a survey responses, it will allow you to put anything from your trigger in there. So if this was an individual record, I could put the first name and last name. In this case, it's a customer, which is a company. So all I can put in is the company name, but that's okay. That's all I used in my template. So as you can see, we also have in this flow an option to, if the customer does not have their quarterly review scheduled, it's going to send a notification to someone. So this would ideally be the account representative to let them know, hey, they indicated that their quarterly review has not yet been scheduled. Please schedule as soon as possible. So I just demonstrated it here for ease based on the email, but you could do it based on any kind of connector in here. So it could be a Teams message, any of those things. So this is another flow. And this flow is for the responses based on your survey. As you can see, the trigger is when a new customer voice survey response is received. We can see that there's a bunch of options that we have. So we have our environment all set up. So one thing that's pretty important is you want to come over here to settings. And you can see this string right here, @ trigger body MSFP survey ID value. And that value is going to be, you're going to want to put in for the survey that you're trying to have an action being taken place for. So where do you get that? That's where Power Apps comes into play. So let's hop over. This is just a very simple model-driven app that I created. So as I said, customer voice holds all of its data within Dataverse. So all of that's very easily accessible to a Power App. So with a model-driven app, we can set it up to where we have a little app that lets us view everything to do with our surveys in a convenient format. So I just did some very minor setup for this, just kind of set out the different objects that are related to customer voice so that we could actually see them. So where are you going to get that little string that we needed to restrict Power Automate? That's where you come into these surveys. So all of this is almost completely default settings. I did do some slight customization, which I will point to in just a moment. But if we open the survey, what we have is kind of all the information. This is about a survey, so this is just the table of surveys themselves. So up here we have MSFP survey ID. Which is exactly what we need to find. So this is the unique identifier of the survey itself. So we just grab that string, you can see, and we copy it. And then it's very simple to just put that into this little formula here. So that's exactly what I've done. So this formula here is all set. So that's going to be just this new customer survey. Then our flow is going to get the response and take all the information that it can get from Dataverse. So it's looking at the survey responses, which is what's triggering this to begin with. It's using activity, which is the unique ID for that survey response to pull the information. Then at the same time, it's going to go and grab the response details from the survey itself. So in this case, it's a little confusing because the connector for this is technically Microsoft Forms, but you'll find that your customer voice surveys are going to be in there as options as well. So I've selected the welcome survey, and the identifier that you want is called the source response identifier. So when you come in here, you would just search for that and click that, and it will add it to the field there. So you see we've already done that. So it's going to take the ID for that survey and use that to get the results. So this is a little bit confusing, but this is going to help us be able to access the information that's all those personalization details that we passed to the survey. So to do that, I need to put in a compose step. That's just a standard action within Power Automate. If you have not done it before, you just type compose, and all it's really doing is setting up information that can be accessed later. So I'm just taking the contacts data from my get the row information, or is it? Let me just double check. Yeah, get a row by ID. It's doing the context data from that, and we're just going to run it through compose. That's just so we can access it later. This is a slightly confusing, but we need to do a parse JSON step. So just kind of hold on just a minute. So we're going to use as our content the output from the compose step above. That's easy enough. So how do you do this? There's actually a fairly simple way to do that, and it starts in our model-driven app. So what I did with the survey responses, let's go to that particular section. If we go to one of our survey results, so there's this field called context data. So what's cool is you can grab all this and do generate from sample, and you can insert it right there and hit done, and it's going to actually generate this for you. And that's all you really need to do in that case. So now, here's where the cool stuff happens. So this is what I was just talking about with the email. This is taking their response for have you scheduled your initial quarterly review. If it is not equal to yes, then it's going to trigger yes in the condition. The reason I did it that way is because it could also be blank. I think I also want this to trigger if they have not answered that question. I only want it not to trigger if they say no, or if they say that they have, if they say yes. So let's send an email. You can see that I've set it up here. It's going to send it to me. Obviously, that can be a programmatic. That could be sent from the Dataverse record. It could be sent from the form, anything like that. It's going to say that that company needs to schedule. We saw the email. You can pull in all these factors throughout this. You can get way more involved in this, but this is just sort of an example to give you an idea of what can happen here. So if we wanted to, we could create as many conditions as we need based on really anything that's included in that response. So you could do things like if the satisfaction is below a certain threshold, you can create a ticket for someone to look at that, or send an email or a Teams message to a supervisor and say, "Hey, get on this right away." So those are kind of some examples of what can be done. But as you can see, I mean, it's really cool with the Power Platform because you can distribute the surveys programmatically and automatically, and then you can take action programmatically and automatically right after the fact. If you don't want to go that route with the automation, you do have other ways to send your survey as well. Automate obviously takes you to Power Automate. You can set up your flow. There is a way to just send emails to people. You have templates that you can use for your surveys to send emails. There's also embed codes that allow you to put it into a website. QR codes give you like a QR thing you can scan and people can go and access it that way. And then just a straight up link as well, a URL that you can share. So yeah, you can set up these surveys to be public as well. That's a thing to note as well. They don't have to be tied to a specific record, but they can, which is really cool. So you can just kind of set this up how you want it to appear. So in our reports for this survey, you can actually start to see your responses over time and what you've been gathering. So you can see our NPS is calculated to be a 60, and that's changed over time. It's actually gone up a little bit based on our survey responses. Our customer satisfaction gone from 4 to 5 based on our responses. Our customer sentiment analysis has remained the same because it looks like no additional responses have been received. But if we got negative feedback, that would show up as well, or neutral. Very cool stuff. So you can kind of keep track of all this data and get to it that way. So what we didn't get a chance to talk about was Power BI, and that was just for time. But I will simply note that because your data is all based in Dataverse, it's very easy to import into Power BI and design dashboards based on the responses. So I've talked a little bit about this in the session that I had the other day at DynamicsCon. That was sort of in a different context, but if you want to see more about Power BI and survey responses, be sure to check that out if you have not already. That one's called How to Build, Run, and Analyze a Survey with Power Automate. And then I just want to kind of close by saying, if you're thinking about surveys, but you're not really sure yet how you want to do that, and you want to make sure that that data is usable when you receive it. Well, Innovia Consulting can help you with that. We have a deep bench of survey writing and analytics experts on our staff, and we offer help creating and distributing your surveys as well. The Power Platform team that I lead can help you build those flows and really think through the process to get exactly how you want things to be for your respondents. We can help you build your surveys according to the science behind great feedback. So you can see over to the right, that's sort of our tagline of learning how to use your voice with Innovia survey experts. That's the process that we follow, and sort of an acronym process to make it easy to follow. And you can learn all more about that and get started at innovia.com/customer voice. And now in closing, I would like to give you a chance to see customer voice in action by actually filling out a survey based on this session. So I hope you'll take the chance to, if you have your smartphone, you can use that QR code, or you can just use that short little URL there as well if you're in front of your PC. That will take you to a customer voice survey that I have designed that is intended to get your feedback off of this session. So I hope you'll take the chance to do that as well and let us know what you're thinking about customer voice. We're really excited about this tool and what it can do for our customers as well as for you. Whether you're using Business Central like we are, or any of the other Microsoft products, customer voice really lets you tap into the feedback that you need to grow. And that's a really exciting thing. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any questions, or as I mentioned, we do have that site at the Innovia.com website for more information about customer voice. So thanks and have a great event.